Artist. And this week we're going to talk about found object sculpture. As you can see from this slide, that there are a variety of different ways an artist might approach a found object sculpture. One thing you will notice though is that you will recognize objects within each of these that are, recognizable. They, as a whole, they transform the collective group of items into something new. But if you look at each individual piece, you can often recognize that it's a gear, or that it's a teapot, or it's a globe, or a GMC logo. So we're going to explore some big questions in this lesson. First of all, what is found object sculpture? How did it get its start? What have other artists created? And how do I go about creating my own found object sculpture? First of all, what is found object sculpture? Found object art describes artwork that utilizes objects not conventionally designed as art supplies and manipulates them, usually while keeping them still recognizable as their original form. So instead of using paint and canvas and pencil, we're using a lot of things that might normally get thrown out, or things that are being reused to make art instead of being recycled or thrown out or given away. For instance, here are some examples of abstract or non-representational found object art. Certainly you can recognize the clocks within this piece, but ultimately it's more of an assemblage of pieces where it doesn't transform into some recognizable figure or thing. Here, this is more about the line and the shape, and we've talked about tension as well, the tension kind of among these different shapes and forms. If you look closely at this, you'll recognize this as made up of those little pop can tabs, but it's transformed into something that almost looks woven. And this here is very interesting. This is an installation, meaning it's used to transform a space. The materials that are used are actually remnants of a church that was burned down in the South. But the artists use this as kind of a memorial to that church and to what has happened within our country regarding some of the terrorism and so on, and that has happened. Now, these are representational, meaning they're works that create something that is recognizable. For instance, this is obviously like a bison or a buffalo. If you look closely, can you recognize some of the materials that were used? These almost look like maybe saw blades. And this looks like some kind of wrapped like plastic, or maybe some kind of cords. If you look closely, you might recognize some items from life. This looks like an 8 here, like some kind of number, maybe for an address or something. Here, I think this one's so fascinating. So obviously it's a chicken, but what do you think it's made up of? If you said eggshells, you're exactly right. Can you imagine just how delicate this piece must be, and the attaching of all these eggshells and getting things just the right size and shape to attach? It's really pretty remarkable. And how cool to create a chicken from something that is produced by a chicken. And here, obviously, it's a little rabbit. It looks like there are a lot of little toys. We see like a toy gun. We see cars. We see like some kind of little bear. All sorts of toy-related plastic pieces. Or maybe they're bottle caps or little pawns, or these look like these could even be for maybe those plastic clothespins that used to be used long ago. So anyhow, we see a lot of fascinating things to create this. And, look at how rich it is in color and texture. We see a lot going on. And yet, notice the shiny blue nose. And that's a neat contrast to all the busyness and just the more dull quality of some of the other things within the piece. Also, many artists are starting to kind of look at this as an environmental statement, repurposing the world's trash or plastic that washes up on the beach to create artwork, somewhat to make a statement about, certainly the wastefulness of our culture and the negativity of how that trash and all that plastic affects wildlife, um, as well as doing something purposeful with the waste. So here we can see this fish was actually created from plastic that had washed up on the beach. You never know. The netting is not quite surprising, but you check out. There's like a little doll of some sort, some kind of little Barbie doll or whatever. It's very fascinating how this artist created this great sense of motion and action. There's a lot of texture. It's really remarkable what they were able to develop as a result. And here's a dog. You can see almost like it almost looks like little army guys. Again, this looks like a lot of children's kind of toys. Kind of worked in here, little action figures. Can't make out quite everything on here, but a lot of them are quite familiar, and they're transformed into make a dog figure. But again, we see like kind of a cap gun. A lot, and maybe this looks like some kind of gun figure as well. And yet, it does look very kind of childlike, a lot of toys within this. Oh, there's another one there too. This is a kind of a more famous piece from history. I believe this was made in like the 1950s. It used old TVs, okay, and transforms them into almost like a robot piece. So in your Google Classroom, you will see some links, okay? First of all, there is How Artists Transform Everyday Objects. Please make sure you watch that. It will talk about the history of found object sculpture. In addition, contemporary artists creating found object sculpture. So there's a video and then also a very interesting article. Even if you just go and check out the images within the article, basically it's an artist who has gone along the beaches. I think it was in Oregon or maybe it was Washington. Anyhow, and collects all the plastic waste, and then she makes these amazing animal sculptures as a result. I highly recommend that. So check these out in the assignment area of the Google Classroom. And so I just wanted to show you a few more examples of found object sculptures. Here, I actually did an image search on Google for found object sculptures, and this guy came up. Thought he was really cute, and so I clicked on him, and come to find out he's for sale on Amazon. There's a homemade aspect of Amazon, and you can sell, what you make. And so this is really cool. This little guy, there's even a little story and a blurb on the page that, for sale. And he's actually a little nightlight. So this area here lights up. But that was really fun. And I found these other found object sculptures also available for sale on Amazon. And again, you can recognize things, like here's a watch, here's some like knobs for like a door, drawers, or something like that. Here's a big binder clip of some sort. This has to do with humidity. And then I'm not exact. Oh, this looks like a handle. Maybe like for a drawer, a cabinet, or something. So again, those recognizable objects being put together and transformed into something new. And certainly, this looks like some kind of electronic, maybe from your computer or something like that. And wires coming out as hair. Fun and playful. Now notice some of the familiar objects that you can recognize in these sculptures. I'm going to give you a minute to kind of reflect on them. So if you hadn't already noticed, like these are measuring spoons. Again, some little gears. This looks almost like maybe a little saw blade or some kind of attachment feature. Maybe this is to like an old metal spatula. Notice the old like little hand brush or broom. We see spoons. Again, more spoons kind of. Oh, look at, here's a ball from a pool table. These look like little hangers that you'd put on the back of something you want to hang on the wall. Maybe some beads. Oh, well, this looks like maybe a bead. And maybe these are like nuts that go on the end of like a screw. And we see some more kind of hardware items here. Oh, is that a little mouse? How cute. I hadn't even noticed the mouse until now. And an old can. So again, a lot of familiar objects that just really get transformed in creative ways. All right, so let's look at what you're going to do. I can collect found objects, which might be recyclables, unwanted items, or items that can be used temporarily but not be attached, okay, that can be used for the creation of a sculpture. So you're going to make a found object sculpture. You can use your imagination, creativity, my found objects to create a found object sculpture. And I'd like you to also make sure you photograph your sculpture and turn it into the Google Classroom. Note, in my demonstration, I use hot glue to attach my sculpture. Other options include, maybe if you have washi tape, masking tape, packaging tape. I've also used electrical tape. And electrical tape is kind of fun because it comes in different colors if you have them. So all those things could work. Maybe you can come up with something else too. Like I said, I'm going to use hot glue. If you don't have any adhesives at home, then feel free to lay out an arrangement on the floor or table, or stack the items if you prefer, and photograph that so it transforms those items into some kind of assemblage. Maybe you create a face, maybe you create something abstract like a design of some sort. Don't worry if you can't attach things, you can still do the project. All right. You'll also find after this a demonstration of how I went about creating a found object sculpture. I hope you guys have a great time with this. Bye.